Hey guys, what's up? It's me. And yes, I have straightened my hair. So now I look more emo than usual. But just as a heads up, these next few videos are going to be very serious because a lot of you look at me like if you see me at school or out in public and you're like, "Oh, she's just a normal human being," except for. But this is a story of my life and what I've gone through. It is really difficult for me to talk about. It was a very bad point in my life that I don't like talking about. But I feel it's time that I start talking about it. If you know what I'm saying. So, for you to understand it, we have to go back to before my 5th birthday. Now, I obviously don't remember all of this because, 5. But from bits and pieces I've heard from people in my family, people who knew my family really close, like my godmom, I've kind of pieced the story together. And kind of everything else. So, when I was little, we had, God only knows how many chihuahuas running around. And cats and rabbits and all that in our house in the city, in Marquette. And my parents got sick. My mom was on her 4th round of medication and was about to be admitted into the hospital. My dad was just finishing his 3rd. They were sicker than dogs. And it was just me at the time. My little brother wasn't around. And the house became a disaster. And we had just gotten back from visiting my cousins in Missouri, and I'd stayed with my cousin Kylie because me and Kylie were really, really close back then. So we slept over. We didn't know she had lice, and so I came home with lice, which sucked, which kind of explains this. I had long, beautiful hair before this, and we cut my hair really, really short, a little longer than this, and then we treated it after the school had already caught it, because I went to kindergarten like that. And when I got home, they had already called DHS, Department of Human Services, and they came and checked the house out. And obviously, my parents being really sick, the house was a disaster. So I was being taken away from my parents just for what was supposed to be a short time to go stay with my grandma up in Lawrence. And they were just supposed to clean up the house and then they'd get me back. That wasn't the case. What? Go away. I'm going to try and make this as funny as I can. It's not going to be funny. But they worked even really, really sick. They worked all night and all day for the next 2 days and got the house spick and span. And then they came in, they looked at the house and okay, now you need to get rid of all but 2 animals. And our caseworker was what you would call corrupt. And because my mom looked into her options to see if she had to get rid of the animals right then and there. Then she decided that my mom was an unfit mom. My parents were just unfit. So she tried to terminate their rights to me. And so I lived with my grandma. And nobody would listen to me when I was little, because they thought, she's just a kid, she doesn't understand it. And they didn't listen when I was like, I want to be with my mom. want to live with my mom and dad. I want mom. They wouldn't listen. And so they tried to terminate my rights. And over time, I became increasingly more violent at school, at home, because nobody would listen to me. I was all on my own. I fought by myself. All the help I got was food, water, a roof over my head, the necessities. Emotional-wise, I had to fight for myself. Mentally-wise, I had to fight for myself. And I became increasingly more violent because I didn't understand. At least not fully. I understood to a certain point because I was very smart. I am still very smart. And they decided I was mentally unstable. And they first sent me to the Marquette Hospital. After a week of examining me, they said, "Oh yeah, this girl is fine. She just needs her parents. She needs her real mom and her real dad." They decided that wasn't good enough. So, a week or two later, while I was still acting up, they sent me to a place downstate in Detroit called Hawthorne, which is basically jail. And down there, I got beat by the other kids on a daily basis. I was so drugged up on medication, I'd sit there like... I was a zombie. If I wasn't asleep at a certain time, I would be put into a padded room. And if I still didn't pass out with being in there for 5 minutes or to 10 minutes, they would come in and give me a shot that would knock me out on my ass for days on end. The only time I would wake up, and I don't even remember this is just in my records, that I would wake up to go to the bathroom to get a drink of water. And then I'd lay back down and go to sleep. I wouldn't eat. I wouldn't interact with anyone. I didn't do anything. And then I got out like a year later. And I stayed with my grandma. And then I cut my hair. Because I was angry. I was upset. And I didn't know how else to deal with it. Me being like 8 now. I was like 8. And then... And they decided that was self-mutilation. And they sent me back to Hawthorne. There, once again, I was beat. I was medicated. I didn't wake up for days on ends. I was in so much pain I could hardly eat. I was skin and bones by the time I left. I could have died. But I did. Because I fight. I fight for my life. I always have. And I was there for like another year. My 9th birthday was the first day that I got to call my mother after 4 to 5 years. That was the first time I had any contact with my mother. And then about a year later, when I got home, I was allowed to see my mom. So she was sitting there in my grandma's kitchen and all, because we could have supervised visits. And she was sitting there, and she brought her friend with her to videotape my reaction. And I didn't even recognize my own mother. So we're going to hold it there, and the rest will be in the next video, which I'll post pretty soon after this. Thank you guys for watching. Tune in for part 2, where you get to hear the rest of my life story. And I hope you have a good day. Bye!